Ashe family, welcome back to another episode of My Unapologetic Perspective. This is the podcast where we give our point of view on controversial topics from our experience, Black history, and our knowledge as African Americans. In the words of Denzel, it's not about race, sometimes it's about culture. I'm your host, Martre Baker Stevens, and to the right of me is Shaquan Battle.
Hello.
And to the right of him is Jerome Battle.
What's up?
Appreciate all the love and support we've been getting. It hit me probably a few weeks ago where a lot of people on TikTok that follow me that I don't know just been sending me random videos. Hey, you should check this out. You should check this out. And they give me information on what they feel about the video. It's just inspiring to see that we're a platform that other Black people come to and they want our point of view on certain things. It's really appreciated across Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube.
And it's got to the point on TikTok where all you got to do is upload the clip. They defend you in the comments.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Really do appreciate it. How are you guys?
I'm good.
Everybody good?
I'm good.
Anything y'all want to start with in particular? I know it's been, sorry to the people, I know it's been a little bit since we recorded. Me personally, my schedule's been hectic, but we vowed to come back this week, and again, we're gonna try to be more as consistent as we can. But sometimes just we're not just able to, But it's not gonna stop. The train is not gonna stop moving. But we'll try to record whenever we can. Hopefully, it's more on a consistent basis based on our scheduling. Anything y'all been dying to talk about or whatever? Like I said, it's been a little bit.
Couple things that we've touched on the podcast kind of came to fruition. Lamar Jackson, MVP.
Yeah.
Only two players in NFL history has won multiple MVPs before the age of 27, which is Jim Brown and Lamar Jackson now. And I think all three of us got a Black head coach now for our NFL teams.
That's dope. Right. That's dope.
Many times we've talked about on this podcast is, it's 2024 and we're still saying the first,
Black, yeah.
And the Atlanta Falcons have just hired their first Black head coach.
I seen where I think it's the Tampa Bay coach that talked about like he don't look at it as being a Black coach. He don't even like saying that. Then him and Mike Tomlin have conversations out front of the camera, and they never bring up their race or anything. But I think he doesn't understand the value of history to why that you have to basically come out and just talk about being Black, because as a Black man, you were discriminated against to not be in that position. And you should be proud to be in that position and be a representative of the people who came before you that weren't able to get in that position.
Right.
And for the people that's coming after you to say, hey, that person that's done that, allow me to be the next person. Because if we just say I'm a head coach, that discredits the history. That discredits the discrimination that we face. I understand his theory in mind to stop talking about it. But when you mention Mike Tomlin, you mention Mike Tomlin for a reason, because Mike Tomlin is also a Black coach.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You said that you have other friends that are white coaches. Well, right there, you're still talking about race. So why are you still so afraid to say that you're a Black man in this coaching position?
Yeah, you're right. You got to pay homage to those that came before you, and the fact that it definitely would apply to Mike Tomlin, that without some of the rules that the ownership has to go through before they hire a new coach, that has to include a Black candidate for interview. You having to meet that quota is a reason some of the Black head coaches had an opportunity.
Yeah. Because
without that, they may not even interview you.
Yeah.
So you have to give credit to those that came before you that created the platform for you to have that opportunity.
Right. Because like I said, you don't want to discredit history, because historically they have said that a Black person can't think on this level. A Black person can't control this amount of people on this level. You know what I'm saying? You look at what happened with the Golden State Warriors with Draymond Green. nobody said a word about Steve Kerr being able to control his team, right? But if that was a black coach and Draymond Green would have had instance out of instance after instance, nobody would have said that, it's just Draymond Green's fault. It's the coach's fault. They do that with Mike Tomlin. With Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, they blame that on Mike Tomlin not being able to control his team. So that people are still talking about he's too hands off when it comes to Pittsburgh. And that's just a something that we have to deal with, that we're blamed for a lot of things. And like I said, we have to be twice as good.
The other thing as a head coach of an NFL franchise is that you also are in control of white people, which is something that white America still has a problem with. Is a black person telling a white person what to do? Right. White America is still not comfortable with that, and we're starting to see that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. That white America is still trying to hold us to that old profile that they created back when slavery began in this country.
Right.
Yeah, and I also like that y'all star player come out and defend Mike Tomlin and say, I'm not playing for nobody else but him. Yeah.
And I'll just say, I know this is a black podcast, but TJ got robbed. TJ was defensive player of the year.
He did.
Absolutely.
But and also to add to that, Atlanta Falcons also got a black head coach and a black GM. First time.
Or Las Vegas.
Yeah. And then the last one that I got is one that we spoke about on this podcast. I think we'd have referred to it at least twice. Killer Mike, clean sweep at the Grammys for best rap song, best rap performance, and best rap album at 47 years old.
Right.
Then got arrested after.
Then got arrested after. That was his Tupac moment.
Yeah.
But
on cue.
But and then the next day, Killer Mike's son received a kidney transplant after waiting 3 years for a match. So to see all of these things happen for Killer Mike at 47 years old is amazing, because we talk about the success that the young rappers have, and and that's why I like with his speech. He said, anything is possible. At 47 years old, he finally got to make the album that he wanted to make, that he paid for. That's the thing, is he financed this album, him and his wife, and then you go around on podcasts and say, I made this album with my money and I want to win a Grammy, and to have a clean sweep at the Grammys. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. I got a gripe with you, Pops. We've been doing this podcast for 2 years, and I don't think you've brought this topic up once, so I had to go ahead and bring it up myself. Back in the 70s, DJs began to take a lot of the gigs from artists, particularly funk and soul artists. Particularly the reason why is because the DJs could play music without having any breaks or pauses. So you had artists such as Isaac Hayes, Curtis Mayfield, War, who began to just start extending their sets, right? So 15, 20-minute sets. That way it gives the audience more time to dance and less time for breaks in between the music. Well, there was one man who decided to go even further. Instead of doing 15 to 20 minutes, he would do an hour, 2 hours without there ever being breaks within the music. And he began to experiment with a certain style to where the drums and the congos take over while he's playing and while doing a call and response lyrics. They call him the Godfather. He created different grooves. And this is in Chocolate City, Washington, D.C. So my gripe with my father is he's from Chocolate City, Washington, D.C., that grew up in this era. And it took me to come onto this podcast and bring up Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers and the invention of go-go music. His brother, all he plays is go-go music. And this go-go music basically came from the term of Smokey Robinson, which is, are you going to a go-go? Which pretty much means, are you going to a party or a dance? And
I will stop you on that one.
Okay. See, hold on to the audience listening.
To your point.
That's why.
To your point.
He should have brought it up on the podcast,
right.
and not me.
You are
So
right.
now,
To your point,
Put that DC card on the
yeah,
table.
I know your uncle gonna say if he don't correct this.
your uncle should have said why.
And he
haven't my
has.
brother
He
has
has.
talked about it.
So for people that don't know, it's exactly what you said. Go-go means the beat goes on and on. That's what go-go means. Is that the
I
beat
never knew
goes
that.
on and on. A lot of people don't. And the reason I never brought it up is because there's a lot of people that watch this podcast that really don't know go-go.
Yeah.
What they know is what they hear on the radio. They got Congos in it.
Mhm.
And they think, oh, that's go-go.
And
But
that's why I
not
wanted
true.
to bring it up, because we've had mainstream music that's considered go-go that made the airwaves. Songs like even Chuck Brown had Bustin' Loose.
That's right.
Right? You had songs like when Rick Rubin went and got DJ Cool, and they did what is it? They did the 20-minute workout, and they did Let Me Clear My Throat.
That's right.
And
But even before that, Salt and Pepper.
Salt and Pepper, it did Rakim, LL Cool J, all have
Mhm.
sampled from go-go music. But they say there's no real recording of go-go music like a live show recording. And the reason why I brought it up is because we were driving probably about 2 hours for work, and normally I play my own music whenever I'm riding. But I was like, I got a white person with me. Like I said, beginning of the podcast, some things it's not about race, it's about culture.
That's right.
All right. I got a white person with me, and I don't want to listen to rap because I don't want them to hear nigga this, nigga that. I don't want to
Get
hear
too comfortable hearing it.
I don't want them to even feel uncomfortable about hearing this. I don't want to listen to my R&B set because I don't want to just sing my soul on the way to the drum. So I said, what is something that I could play that be good for me and this person? Because white people love live bands as well. They love instruments.
Right.
So I throw on the go-go. I throw on Rare Essence, right? Throw on Rare Essence. And immediately his head started, right? He looking at because the joint come up who playing on
who it is.
He right? Then later on he hitting the joint. He hitting his hand against the passenger seat.
He done found the snare.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to Black history. This music, because growing in the early 70s, of course, you had Trouble Funk, you had Experience Unlimited, and you had Rare Essence, who were competing as the best band out of Chocolate City. And just the way we have battle rap to see who's the best MC, they would have battle with the bands to see who's the best band. Of course, they credit Chuck Brown with being the originator, but these bands wanted to come out and show that they're the best. And at one time, not too long ago, Washington, D.C. actually tried to shut this down as far as the places that they will play. And, Rare Essence, they characteristic, the 4 Congo style, play ball, all bands was originated by Rare Essence. And then, of course, their biggest hit was Doing the Butt that came out on Spike Lee's School Days soundtrack. And then you had bands like the Junkyard, who started as kids, and what they would do, they would play off like plastic buckets.
Trash cans.
Yeah, they would play off anything. So they went away from the traditional style and kind of brought in the new wave of, we're going to have no horn section. We're going to have no good bass guitar player. We're just going to bring in all these different instruments and play. And they had their signature song, Sardines.
Just like rap now. Ain't no chorus, just all. You might get one chorus, one verse, song over.
So my question to you is, growing up in Chocolate City in the 70s into the 80s, what is your perspective on this music, and who are some of your favorite bands?
That was the sound. That was the sound of the city during my childhood. I mean, they even created a radio channel. I don't know if it was exclusively for go-go, but it became that, where all they played was go-go music on the radio. And I know if you know anything about go-go, you've heard about Chuck Brown, you've heard about EU, you've heard about Rare Essence. Some people may have heard about Trouble Funk. Trouble Funk kind of progressed to a different style of music later on, but
most people may have heard of those groups, but they didn't hear about groups like Red and the Boys. They didn't hear about groups like Northeast Groovers, Northwest Connection. See, Hot Cold Sweat. See, people haven't heard about those groups because they play live. It's like you said, it was more about the live performances than it was about recordings, because it was really music for the city. It wasn't necessarily music for anybody else. It was just for the city. And sometimes you had to go live. You had to go see them live to hear them play. Otherwise, you wouldn't hear it. The other thing is there was, for a long time, there was very few original songs. Most of the time they did what's called today a cover. Yeah. They covered songs that were popular, and they did it with their own swag. The go-go swing is what they would do. And it became their signature songs. And sometimes they sung the songs as covers better than the people who originally sung the songs. And it became a popular thing in the city.
Who wrote that verse? I'm going to take you around, take you up and down, turn you out and leave. Because I've heard that verse on.
And see, that's the thing.
10, 15
a lot of those
go-go
different things that you would hear, every band would use them.
Right.
They became signature for so many bands. So finding out who the originator of certain phrases, hard to tell.
Right.
You know, it's just like taking it to the bridge. Every band had a bridge. Right. And everybody had a break off the bridge. It's called the pocket. You hear people talk about, some bands say locking in the pocket. So putting it in the pocket, that's the groove where you have your percussions. That's pretty much your percussions going. And you had Congo players who had signature moves. Congo moves that they would do. Your uncle plays Congos, but you had your best Congo players would get the limelight. Those are the ones everybody wanted to go see. Like Juju was one of the ones back in my day. Everybody wanted to go see Juju play, and that was. But it was something for the city, and they really wanted to keep it that way. There was a lot of go-go bands that didn't like the fact when Essence went a little pop with their music.
Similar to rap. Similar to how
they didn't like when EU went a little popular music with go-go. They didn't really like that.
So do they look at the music that's recorded, like the original bands, like the bands that you named that most people ever, do they look at the music that was recorded, like Sardines and 20-Minute Workout? Do they look at that and say that's not
so much Sardines, because it's sort of like one song I'll tell you that was in the rap facet that came the same way was Lottie Dottie by Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick. That was something that they used to perform live. And it wasn't until they decided to do the show as a single and they did Lottie Dottie on the B-side.
Right.
But originally you had to go see them live to hear that song. And it was more popular when it was that way versus when it became the B-side of the show. And that's the same way with Sardines. Everybody loved that song, but you had to go hear it live to get the full impact of it, because it wasn't just Sardines on that same EP, if you will. You know, there was other songs that talked about Reaganomics. You know, it's called The Word. For people that didn't talk about WRRND, and what they was talking about is politics and how the politics of Reaganomics was affecting inner city DC. And so, you know, I think sometimes when you talk about rap, if people have no understanding of rap, it's like you're just talking, because nobody's gonna go Google go-go and get the full understanding of what it is. So they figure, well, where am I going to get the information? Well, there's really nowhere to go get it.
It's funny. It's hard to find. I mean, there's no real documentary. There's no real information other than, hey, this is what Chuck Brown started, and from the beginning. But there's really not a lot of people that have actually talked about the history that I've seen, that I found on the internet.
And there's so much live go-go that still goes on today, that you have all these different bands that have migrated to, and let's be clear, these are real musicians. So this is not instruments programmed into a keyboard. These are live musicians that are getting it right time after time, time after time, time after time, night in, night out. Also, speaking of those breaks, 15, 20-minute long sets, when you go to a go-go,
A real go-go. I'm not talking about going to see a go-go band in Lynchburg or in Richmond. I'm talking about or in Farmville. I'm talking about a real go-go. You go to DC and see a real go-go band. First of all, people my age can't go because they don't start cranking until after midnight. Mm-hmm. And by then I'm asleep. So you got to be prepared to be a night owl because they don't start cranking until after midnight. So when you go to a go-go, remember that song 6 in the morning? That's true story. Overnight you go scenario. To a go-go, overnight scenario. You go to a go-go at midnight. When they start cranking, your ass ain't going home till 7 o'clock in the morning because they get in those grooves. And here's the thing, the drummer all fucking night long. Same drummer. They're not switching drummers. These dudes playing all night long for hours at a time with no break. These are musicians. Right. And I think sometimes when you just talk about go-go and people have no idea what you're talking about, you're really doing them a disservice. You're really doing go-go a disservice. Uh-huh. So that's one of the reasons why I never talked about it, is because you're going to have so many listeners that don't know what it is.
There's so many people who have no idea what go-go music is. Now, Virginia may be different because I know you hate the term DMV, but that's actually what I read when it came to the origins. They said it originated in DC, Maryland, Virginia. But
yeah, because some of your best artists came from that Arlington area. So, I mean, I can admit that. Some of the best, especially when you talk about Congo players, because really your Congo players and your lead talker are the ones that people are going to remember the most. You know, so people say, well, who's your favorite lead talker? I had so many, you know, but I used to love the one they used to call Sugar Bear from EU, because when I first started listening to go-go, they used to have a song called Knock 'Em Out Sugar Ray. So Sugar Ray Leonard was the best boxer in the world during the time, and they had a song called Knock 'Em Out Sugar Ray. That's one of the first go-go songs I had ever heard. So for the people that don't know, EU real name is Experience Unlimited, right? Freeze. So EU Freeze for short is what people call them. But that was the first go-go album that I heard. Outside of that, everything was Red and the Boys, which was a cassette that somebody would go and record live. That's what you listen to. So people would take tape recorders to the live performances and record them.
Yeah, you answered my question. I was gonna ask, you know, for me, my introduction to hip hop, I remember getting into Grand Prix and hearing Biggie's 10 Crack Commandments.
That's right.
I remember hearing Jay-Z Ain't No Nigga, but you answered that by, I was gonna ask you, what was the first record that you heard from Go-Go that made you say, what is this?
That's right. It was that, and then a couple of years later, Chuck Brown had a song called Back 'Em On Up. And that's one of my favorite songs that I recite when I play spades. When you set somebody, you got to back 'em on up. You set somebody, right? But you remember those things because it was a time. And see, for me, a lot of those things remind me of family, because that's when my mom and dad was still married, and it was, a family setting. And so when I listen to those songs and think about those songs, I think about that time and place in my life. And, those are truthfully, they're feel good moments that I don't want to, I don't like to share, because I can't elaborate to where somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about is really going to be able to relate to it. So it's like a waste of time sometimes, because people always ask me, they was like, oh, so why do your brother listen to go-go? Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is a feel-good music that reminds you of a good place and time in your life.
I remember all the summers we would go to DC to visit Granddad, and then we would go to this one particular mall upstairs. The store was in the right corner, and all you heard was nonstop go-go, and Uncle Gene would be in there for 4 hours
picking out go-go songs.
That's right. to bring back to Virginia.
Absolutely. The internet made his life easier.
Yeah. But even, you say it made it easier, but him still being, from DC and loving go-go the way that he did, he would still go back to DC to make those drives to find the go-go music that he wanted.
Yeah, because he was able to find. So, if you went online, you got the same go-go songs that everybody else got. Well, if you know my brother, he wanted to be different, especially from the DJ sector.
He wanted to play
Mhm.
go-go that people had never heard before. So he would like to go make sure I can get something that they're not going to get unless they're driving up here
Mhm.
doing the same thing I'm doing,
Right.
which at the time nobody was doing.
Yeah.
If you couldn't buy it from Record Exchange, or as the internet came about, if you couldn't download it,
Mhm.
they weren't getting it.
Mhm.
He was going to DC buying them shits, the versions of songs that nobody had ever heard of
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And the shit cranked. And he would play it, and people were like, "Who's that?" And he would never tell you.
Yeah.
You know, he would never
Yeah,
tell
nah,
you who it was.
yeah.
He would just give you that smile while he bobbing his head. He would never tell you who it was. He wouldn't even tell me. You know,
And I'm gonna give him a shout out and let him know that we shouted him out. He has one of the best mixed CDs that I ever heard, where he mixed the go-go with Michael Jackson songs. Man, that's one of the best things I've ever heard in my life.
people always ask me at the gym, "What you listening to?" I can't tell them because you can't get it, and I'm certainly not gonna give it to you. But it's mixes that my brother been doing for the last 35 years, and those are my workout. Those are my workout songs that I listen to, man.
The funny part is when he need his. I remember the first time I updated his computer, and I was going through the music, and I couldn't tell what was what. So when I gave him the laptop back, I asked him, I was like, "How you know which go-go is which?" He was like, "I know which one it is."
And that's why I always say that he was in my opinion, he was one of the best DJs ever, is because of his knowledge of music.
Mhm.
And the fact that his job was to do what go-go attempt was try to keep people dancing.
Right.
And so people say, well, why did he retire? And his favorite phrase is, because now it's not required.
Mhm.
People don't dance like that no more. So you don't have to have a DJ to try to keep the party going. All you have to do is have somebody that are going to play the popular songs
Mhm.
or the songs that people say they want to hear, and they just put the record on and let it play.
Yeah.
It's not required anymore. So the minute that it became unrequired, he said it's not for me. You know, and that's why he hung it up.
And the other thing with him is, he loved it so much that, if you asked him to DJ a birthday party and you asked him, how much you gonna charge? Hey dog, what I'm about to do right now, I do in the basement anyway.
That's his craft.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a set price on what he wanted from you, because what he was doing is what he loved to do. And I've never seen a DJ play a song that it'll have you standing there like, okay, what is this? And then he mix it with something else, and then you just start dancing. You don't even know what it is.
And that's great, because that's actually another great topic that we can kind of segue into off of go-go. And we didn't have this written down, but let's just go with it. I've been seeing more and more DJs on TikTok post that.
Yeah,
right. They're really posting their mashes that's mixing up, and it's going back to show you that you still do need real DJs.
Mhm.
There's an audience out there that still loves real DJs, that not just understand what songs to play, but what songs actually go together.
Right.
You can mix it together.
But it's selective. It's selective. It's sort of like, where are you gonna buy your drip from? Where you gonna buy your clothes from? Right? Years ago, everybody would go to Foot Locker or Foot Action.
Right.
Not no more, right? Most people, they order online now.
Right.
So yeah, it's still necessary. The product is, but where am I going to get that product becomes the problem. So yeah, when you have people that put together, and I hate those fucking terms like mashes and all of that, because it's a fucking mix. That's what it is. It's a mix. And they change the terminology to make it seem like it's something new when it's not. Right? But it's a mix. But it's, where am I going to get that mix? And are you going to the club? Are you looking at a reel? What are you doing to create that audience for that mix? And what usually happens is DJs are still popular when you have concerts, when you have comedy shows, when you have wrestling matches, when you have cheerleading competitions, right? DJs are necessary there. But how many people are going to a party down the street that has a DJ that you care about whether he's a true DJ or not?
Right.
Most people don't care. Long as he playing the songs we like, then we good, because it ain't like we dancing for 20 minutes no more, right? I don't care what age bracket. I mean, the teenage age bracket, the parties my brother DJ before he retired, kids dance less than 50-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
So they may dance for like 3 minutes, then after that, they stand around talking in their little groups or whatever. So it's still required at a different level, but it's where you're going to get that audience.
And that's changed now, where before it was every party. It could be a basement party. I remember people used to have parties in their living rooms. They move all the furniture and they would have a party right there in their living room with a live DJ.
Yeah.
Those days are over.
I think nowadays parties have kind of transitioned into a social hour. It's a social event. You know, you can have the DJ. The DJ is basically the background music now in parties because, like you said, they might play. And with TikTok, they kind of, you know, I asked Uncle Gene that when he DJ'd Sonny's birthday party, like, how is it harder for you being that these kids heard 30 seconds of a record on TikTok and that's all that they want, and then they don't care about the other 3 minutes of the song? Like, you have to get to the point where these kids care about the song, and then you have to switch the song.
Right.
But that's one thing about Uncle Gene is, you know, whenever he DJs something for me, hey, look, these couple right here is the ones I want you to play. After that, do your thing. You know what I'm saying?
And that's how I like to work. You know, tell me what you want, and then after that, you telling me it's me. I got you.
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember whose party it was, but he had. It was something I never seen him do before, which is a lot of mixing and playing different songs. He might play 10 seconds of a song, switch it, all this mixing for like maybe 10 minutes straight. And everybody was standing there watching, like, hey, stop dancing. They were standing there watching. And then he said, good night.
Yeah. We had our most fun at the beginning when you set up, and then your most fun at the end when you're tearing down. That's when we had our most fun.
That's when he played.
Because that's when he did what he wanted to do, right? In between, he kind of did what the crowd dictated, what the request was, which he hated. He only had one rule on requests, because at first he was like, I ain't doing a fucking request. Then I was like, well, you're going to have to if they paying, you know, they paying for the party. So his request, his rule became, if you requested, the person that come up here and requested, we got to see you dance.
Yeah.
Right?
I being that we started this, this is Black History Month. Uncle Gene, after you hear this, I'm letting you know we have a seat and a microphone for you to come up here and not just talk about DJing today. We kind of want to take us back. You are a part of Black History in Bedford when it comes to DJing. Come up here, share your stories, share your gripes, share your enjoyments of your history of DJing. We'd love to have you. Anything you want to?
Yeah, I want to go into something real quick, and I hate to come on the heels of that, but I think it's necessary, right?
What you want to talk about? Nikki Haley saying she was black?
No, I do want to talk about something, because especially during Black History Month, because I think this is significant, because obviously this is when, you know, you decided that you thought this was a platform, that's something that needs to be shared. And obviously at the beginning of this, you didn't think that February was a long enough month to talk about Black history, or, you know, and not just Black history, because when I think about what we've been doing is we're discussing and enlightening others about Black people, strong, beautiful, intelligent, resilient, talented, successful Black people who contributed to the development and success of this country. And we belong here. That's important, is to show our relevance as to why we belong here. But there's also some things that come along with the trials and tribulations that we've encountered through slavery, Reconstruction, civil rights movement, up to today, things that we encounter even today. We also inherited a lot of things through these years, the years-long process: pain, suffering, struggle, continued struggles, unfairness, mistreatment, inequality, discrimination, hate, violence, and unwanted and undeserved inheritance simply because of the color of our skin. And these have some real effects on us, effects that we don't even realize on a day-to-day basis, or how global it really is. For instance, we are more likely to die of a stroke of a heart or heart attack than any other race of people in America.
True.
And I don't know that people really understand that. And although you can attribute these things to a lot of different things, our lifestyle, living conditions, but a lot of those things
were dictated by all the things we went through leading up to where we are right now.
Correct. Especially like things like soul food.
Absolutely. Right. And I know a lot of times people like to discount those things, but those things are proven. So this is not me talking. This is what people like to refer to as truth, science, history, right? Researchers show Black people are more likely to suffer from high blood pressure or hypertension than any other race. Mm-hmm. And as I said, die from stroke or heart attack. 50% are more likely to die of stroke. 70% more likely to die of heart attack than our counterparts. And here's some astounding things for you. I just want to add to that. Research also shows that Black people do not sleep as much as white Americans. On average, African Americans live in louder neighborhoods, work longer hours, work late hour shifts, and longer travel distances to get to work, get to and from work. A lot of those conditions, as I said, was created through all those transformations we went through as this country continued to grow. Mm-hmm. Things created by the government, things created by the very concept, the fabric in which this country was created and grew to where it is today.
Especially the longer travels.
Absolutely.
We ain't putting our work spot nowhere near y'all neighborhood.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. They've said that since the emergence of police brutality against unarmed Blacks and white hatred that have been killing Black people in America, Blacks sleep a lot less. And it doesn't matter where the event occurs, whether it's 2,000 miles from you or right up the street. It affects Black people the same way. Guess who?
Trauma porn.
That's right. Guess what people it did not affect? White people. Nope. White people. It has not impacted them at all. So they still sleep at night. Which and I'm gonna tread lightly because I don't want to do this a disservice, because I'm gonna say something that I know that if people jump to conclusions before they listen to the whole segment, you could be blackballed, because it has to do with something that is a very touchy subject. And when I say this, you'll see what I'm talking about. Hitler and the genocide against Jewish people is taught in school, and rightly so. Mm-hmm. The narrative concepts and certain language and references in regards to the Holocaust and Jewish people are protected. And again, rightly so. Hitler and the Holocaust of Jewish people is responsible for the deaths of an estimated 9 million people. 9 million. Mm-hmm. Currently, what's going on in regards to Israel and Palestine and the position countries such as the United States that they take, in part, is based on the Holocaust and the compassion for Jewish people and the remembrance of the Holocaust and the atrocities that took place, and the protections that come with narratives and concepts in reference to anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. Now, here's where it gets a little dicey. According to researchers in history, the Holocaust is not the largest display of genocide or mass murder of a race or group of people that occurred in this world.
Of course, we know all that. We know that.
So I want to, and again, I want to be careful, because I'm not minimizing.
No,
I'm not minimizing.
We're not even trying to compare.
Not even trying to compare. I want to get through this because I want to make a point. One of the largest orchestrated genocides of a race of people, upward of 10 million people died as a result of colonial exploitation under this person's rule, Leopold II. Now, I know most listeners are either saying no way, or when, or tell me more. But I guarantee you all listeners are saying, why haven't we heard this before? It's because those 10 million people were Africans, killed during the rule of Leopold, a white man, as he ruled the Congo from 1885 to 1906. Mm-hmm. And you say, well, why weren't we taught this in school as we were taught about the Holocaust? And you have some people say, well, because it didn't happen in America. Well, neither did the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. Didn't happen in America. So why didn't we learn about this in school? It's the same concept when we talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, who they're trying to currently erase some of his speeches from the history, from school history and from history curriculums across the United States. Right now, that's what they're trying to do right now. It's the same concept that they're trying to remove certain words regarding slavery from those same history books and history curriculums across the United States right now. It's because it happened to black people. It happened to black people at the hands of white people. And you're going to hear some people say, well, when I did my research, some of those people that committed those atrocities were black. Well, some of the people that killed Jewish people were Jewish.
Yeah.
So you can't use that as an excuse. And I say that because when we talk about white people not losing sleep over things that happen to us that impact us every day, that is the truth. You know, my mom used to say, when somebody show you who they really are, you need to believe them. You got to believe them, man. This is not shit that we're making up on this podcast. This is shit that's out there for anybody to obtain if you care. So you can't expect white America to go out and research shit that don't impact them, that cause them to lose sleep at night. Who the fuck are we fooling? We know that's not going to happen. But what I do suggest is that black people do. You need to know your history.
Yes.
Just this past week, Republicans proposed 50 bills in 20 states that will restrict initiatives on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is referred to as DEI, or require the public disclosure. This would not only apply to K through 12 schools, state government, contracting and pension investments, universities, but some would bar financial institutions from discriminating or penalizing those who refuse to participate in DEI programs. So once again, this is white America saying, we are not losing sleep over the shit you guys are talking about. They're continuing to pass bills to continue with their initiative, which is, excuse me, white America, but I got to be honest, white supremacy.
Right.
White supremacy. And it's going to continue to happen. So while we're talking about certain things, guess what they're doing? They're passing goddamn bills, left and right, to make sure that they can erase some of these things in history. And just to piggyback off of that, because this just happened in Florida, where they've already changed the Black history curriculum, but they've also changed history curriculums, period. But in order for their kids to participate in Black History Month, parents had to sign a permission slip. They had to sign a permission slip. As a parent, when do you sign a permission slip?
When you're going somewhere.
When you're going somewhere because your child could end up being hurt or something tragic could happen. So you telling us your kids learning the truth about Black history. First of all, it's not going to be the level of Black history that you learned on this podcast. First of all, you're still going to get the watered down version. Yeah. But you're telling your child that learning that could be detrimental to their health. Yeah. It could be unsafe for them to learn those things. That's what you're telling parents, that you need them to sign a permission slip to be able to participate. But you don't have to sign no permission slip to take American history, right? Now, just Black history, you know. So I just wanted to make that point. I hate to come on the heels of something we were talking about that was so great in terms of Black music. But I want people to understand that I know this is a short month, and I realize that most people are only going to get involved in Black history during Black History Month. I know that. But make it a point to start teaching your kids some of this stuff. Yeah. Because if you don't, they'll never learn it. And they're going to grow up and they're going to be shocked when the world shows them their true colors, because you didn't prepare them for it. Can't leave it up to K through 12 to prepare them, because they're not going to do it. It's your job to prepare your child for white America and how white America is going to treat them.
You know, the funny thing is, one of the things, they're actually trying to censor us on social media, which is why the Republican Party is really trying to get rid of TikTok. I know Ted Cruz was one of the people who was questioning the person from TikTok basically on why certain things can go viral on TikTok that won't go viral on other platforms. And then certain things like I think there was a bad situation that happened in China where the Chinese government did something to the civilians, and that's not being talked about or pushed. But that's the exact same thing that happens in America all the time. Is we're on TikTok explaining the things that happen in America, and they want to censor that by any means.
That's right.
Same thing they do in our educational system. So even if that brother who's Asian that runs TikTok wants to censor people from China and the Republicans have a problem with it, that's the same thing that people like Ted Cruz and his Republican Party
That's
are
right.
doing right here in America to everybody else. You don't want to have these conversations. You don't want to talk about the totality of American history. You want to talk about what you think is important that puts you in a light that makes other people feel uncomfortable, but you don't want it the other way around.
Absolutely.
Never once did you ask us how George Washington make us feel, because
That's right.
he's your first president.
That's
So
right.
it doesn't matter if he was a slave owner to you or not. So when we look at those type of things, like, what you said is important. I know some people may not like it, but even with us in the Jewish community, well, listen, we don't have to compare trauma. We don't have to do that at all. We understand that what happened to both of our people is horrific.
That's right.
But don't allow yourself to come in and say, well, our cause is bigger than the other. No, fight for your cause and we'll fight for ours.
That's
We don't have to draw a comparison on the millions and millions of people who died or are affected. What we can speak on from this podcast and this perspective, which is our perspective, which is why we're talking about the Black perspective, is we understand fully, because we're Black people, how slavery not only impact us in history, how it still impacts us today, which is number one, through the educational system, because you don't even want to talk about it, which is the first step into solving the problem.
Which obviously is why we think that they killed Martin Luther King.
Exactly.
Not because the I Have a Dream speech, but the speeches that came after that said the next time we come to Washington, they got to break out their checkbook.
Yeah. Let's just go to a current event real quick. Joe Budden said something on the podcast. Well, they laughed at Ish on the podcast about going to see a musical, a Malcolm X musical. It was funny. It is funny. To think about Malcolm X being sung in an opera form is hilarious, right? But I don't want to discredit how important theater is to Black history.
Right.
Blackface was used to portray Black people, written by white people, performed by white people, to basically degrade us.
That's right.
And a lot of people like me understand the history and the culture and how important theater is. Like, some of our best movies came from theater. When you think about The Color Purple, when you think about Fences, when you think about Ma Rainey, you think about One Night in Miami. These are plays that came to film that actually performed well in film when most people didn't think that it would, because it was particularly made for a stage play. Not only that, some of our best actors and actresses have come from stage plays or from Broadway. Some of our best musicians came from Broadway.
That's right.
Some of our best designers of costume and makeup came from stage plays. And it gives playwriters the opportunity, people, regardless of how you feel about his product and what he did. Tyler Perry created $1 billion business through starting from writing a play. And the history of it is important, that we understand that Black writers, Black actors, Black actresses, Black singers, Black people that have made it somewhere from that stage, it's important to understand the people that's coming behind you to not sell them out. And when I talk about current events, I love what Cat Williams and Monique did on Shay Shay's podcast. But there is a deeper meaning when we blow out other people's candles to make ourselves higher. With Oprah and Tyler Perry, these are people who are looking at themselves as above all of the other Black people, and the people who pretty much help make you money you want to devalue them.
That's right.
Right. And that goes back to the slave syndrome, that slave masters didn't want leaders who were for enslaved people. They wanted leaders that spoke for them. So one of the biggest things that I took from the Monique interview was when she said that when she turned on the TV and she seen Oprah, a big black woman, it inspired her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people like Oprah forget that, to when you have these people in your face, that these people are not your competitors. These are people that were looking for you to open up the door and embrace them coming in, not to go through what you go through, get into the door, then be the security for the door to not allow other black creators to come through. Like, I just feel like we continue this slave syndrome by continue to have this crab in the bucket mentality, to where we continue to pull each other down. And as entertaining as it is to see D.L. Hewley, Monique, Steve Harvey, Cat Williams, Kevin Hart, all of them go at it, it's not good for the culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pushing the envelope any further. And I'm not saying that who's to blame. We're all to blame. But when we put our money together, we work collectively, we write our own stuff, boy, do we show up.
Mm-hmm.
When they did Black Panther, niggas was showing up in African outfits.
Mm-hmm.
We will show up. We will help you recoup the money fast. Coming to America, you're going to recoup the money fast. But when you have this division within black creators, it gets messy. And Hollywood takes advantage of that.
I was going to say Hollywood benefits from it, but it makes you think that, considering this is the same thing that happened in R&B and the rap industry for black artists. I can go all the way back to New Edition. I remember New Edition had a hit single on the radio. They still live in the projects. You know what they got them? Scooters. That's what they had. So while they had two songs moving up the charts, they was riding through the projects on scooters. And the people that was in charge of that were black, not white, but black. But it goes back to something that I've been hearing this for years. So my cousin Jazz has been telling me this for years. So what Cat Williams is saying did not surprise me at all. Is that in order for you to become successful in the entertainment world as African American, you have to agree to certain rules created by white America that says that we're going to allow this to happen for you. Now, and I know a lot of this is going to be pointed at the people that's at the top, like your Jay-Z's and Beyonce's and all that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying anything negative about any of them because I don't know what really happened. I only know that when you hear multiple people saying that you have to agree to abide by certain rules and we'll let you have your $1 million or your $1 billion or whatever it is you're moving for, but you have to do these things, otherwise you can't achieve it. We're not going to allow you to achieve it. You have to believe that some of that has to be true.
Right.
How can it not be? Because everybody that makes it big falls into those categories of the things that they say you can do and you can't do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you think about Dr. Dre. When have you heard Dr. Dre come out and say anything pro-black? Mm-hmm. You see, and nothing against Dr. Dre. I love him. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that it makes things that Cat Williams is saying more likely to be true, especially when you start hearing it from multiple people.
Yeah.
And if it applies to Bill Cosby, if you have a lot of people saying the same shit about you, what's the chances of it all being false?
Yeah, and it bothered me a little bit because I've seen so many people, any black person that comes successful to where they make $100 million or $1 billion, they say they did something to get that. And and it made me mad because I'm like, why do black people have to be Illuminati to be able to become millionaires or billionaires? Then you begin to look at the moves that those people make and you say, well, damn.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
I mean, I think about, and this is a true story. I think about, because we always have artists that come out, especially, let's think about in terms of music, especially R&B. Not so much rap, but let's just talk R&B. I mean, R&B music. You have artists that come out, they have 1 or 2 hit songs. And you hear nothing else from them. What the fuck happened? Mm-hmm. And then once you start researching, you find out that there's a producer that they were in a relationship with and it went sour. And after that, they trashed their record, right? Or you have a producer that tried to sleep with that person and that person said no. And they went, Stacey Lattisaw. So anybody ever heard of Stacey Lattisaw? Do some research on Stacey Lattisaw to find out why she made no more albums. And you'll find out things that were happening just in that DC area. Johnny Gill was a part of this orchestration as well. And you'll see where some artists was willing to do certain things and some artists weren't. And the ones that weren't, guess what? And you got to remember, a lot of people didn't have the money to do independent deals. So even people like Jay got on because he did an independent deal where they created demos and sold them out the trunk because he wasn't willing to do some of the things that they wanted him to do, right? So now people aren't going to come out and say that because you can't talk negative about the industry that's making you a millionaire because now your million is going to stop, right? Yeah. So you can't expect that. But what you can do is listen to the people that never did make it big and stop saying that they're disgruntled. Just because they're mad doesn't mean that they're lying. You know, and I think about what, especially Monique, because she went on Steve Harvey's show and she talked face to face with Steve Harvey and said, here's my problem with you, face to face. Now, if I'm lying, you tell me I'm lying. He never said that. He never said that she was lying. Oprah didn't do that. You know, Tyler Perry didn't do that. Why? So, you know, so just because a person is angry, because you hear Black people get touted as being the angry Black man or the angry Black woman all the time. Just because we angry as fuck don't mean that we're lying.
Right.
You know, we're just angry.
You should be angry because you could expect that from Hollywood white side.
But not from
I
your
didn't
people.
expect that from somebody that I turned the TV on and I seen as a kid and I said, they made it. I want this. Or somebody that, you know, I thought would be proud of that I took this movie Precious and made it the greatest thing in the world. And that it just bothers me to
and Precious is a great example.
Yeah.
If people really want to know what we're talking about, just Google that whole scenario with Precious and Monique. Google how much money she got paid. It's all public record. How much she got paid, and then what they required her to do that she refused to do and why she refused to do it. And she won an Oscar for that role. And then since then, what have you seen her in?
Nothing big. I mean, like I said, she talked about how getting blackballed that Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels. She said Lee Daniels came back and apologized and tried to make it right. I just don't understand why they can't do that. And for, you know, Taraji P. Henson and all of the female actors, the actresses that feel like they're not getting paid enough. You know how much the movies went down when the writers decided that they were going to boycott? Like, imagine if the Black actresses and Black actors and Black writers decided, hey, we're not doing this Hollywood shit until we get, you could imagine how how it would just change the economy in Hollywood.
And Taraji did. She did come out and talk about how much she was getting paid. And even in this Color Purple, she talked about the fact that they brought them all down to Atlanta and basically went to hotel rooms and told them to get to the site the best way you can. You know, she was like, no, I've earned the right to say it's your job to get me to and from the site. But not only me, but every cast member you brought down there and put in this hotel room with me.
And I think that's why Oprah has to speak out, or we're going to take the word of these people, because you're somebody who was a pioneer for Black people on television. And now you have all of these Black women that's saying that you're doing this and you haven't said a word.
Never said a word, you know? And I know people say that, you know, they are not going to indulge in the pettiness. It's easy for the people that's winning, right, to say, I'm not getting involved. It's just like, same thing we go through regarding civil rights, discrimination, and equality, right? Is why would white people side with us when they benefit from it? You know, it's, you have to almost tap into people's morality, which is a whole different story. One of the reasons that what I talked about Leopold II, one of the reasons why that was able to happen the way that it did is because they had the Africans buy into the concept of Christianity. And once they bought into that concept of Christianity, now you have to play the role of the slave because you're a Christian. Right? So when you put this in perspective, people are playing their role based on the platform that was created. And they're not going to go against that because they benefit from it.
Mhm.
Why would they?
Yeah, I think that's my issue with Tyler Perry is, we watched, like Bake said, theater is a big part of Black culture, and we watched Tyler Perry do chitlin circuits with his plays, built on the backs of Black women.
Right.
Him portraying a black woman.
That's a
That's
fact.
right. Absolutely.
And then you do all of these, and then you make it to the movie screen, and you're still portraying a Black woman. You got this Black actress, and then you get your own opportunity to build Black Hollywood in Atlanta, and then Black women are coming out saying they're not getting paid
That's right.
by you what they worth. That's my problem with Tyler Perry. And then, like Monique said, Black women, women got it hard enough, and then you throw the Black part in there, and it takes them down a whole nother level.
And I will say that her beef with Steve Harvey and Lee Daniels and Oprah and that group of people is different than the beef with D.L. Hughley.
Yeah.
Because D.L. Hughley does not buy into those same things that Cat Williams talking about. He's on Cat Williams' side when it comes to that.
I actually agree. I'm actually on the side of D.L. Hughley. Like I said, I don't know the situation, but I know Monique going on stage and revealing some things about D.L. Hughley was something she shouldn't have done.
Unfair. However, I will say, in regards of comedians, I think comedians cross the line when they're talking about other comedians all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And D.L. Hughley admitted that, but he brought up another point. When the fuck has Monique ever told a joke in the last 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
So I get his point that she's not a comedian anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She's going out pushing her own agenda, which is why he didn't accept, her bringing up his daughter and all that stuff, But obviously comedians bust on each other all the time, even family members, especially if they know what's going on personally with those family members. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
That's part of being a comedian.
But we love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Peace.